Marie whakalowalahi atu. My name is Papali'i Ala'ilima. It gives me distinct pleasure to welcome you to our show. It's been a minute. It's been a little while. Some big things have happened. I know my crew are coming in as we speak. So we'll talk about some things that have gone on, some things have happened. We'll have a chat about what's going on. But feel free, please, to jump in there, give any comments, any questions that we have. Whoo! So, definitely been a big time, but we have to start the way we find it proper to start. That is by prayer. So, very quickly, dear Lord, thank you so much for each and every day you've given us. Thank you so much for the breath in our body. We thank you so much for the ability to engage with people on the day-to-day and also to come together for everything that we need to talk about. So we thank you, Lord, for everything and every day. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, right. So, a lot of things have been going on over on our website. Of course, we come under that parent body of the Daily Examiner, and it is something which is really wonderful. Interesting enough, we just got massively hacked. We got hacked hard. And just before I carry on, I see I've got the crew. The crew is here. Introducing to yourselves, Liao Tilsley. Liao.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. I can. Can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah.
Oh.
You're breaking
no,
up a
good.
bit, unless it's me.
No, I think it's me. I think it's me again.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think it's me.
I'm sorry,
I think it's
just in
me.
my gear and it looks like a hot mess.
It looks good. It looks very good. So, Liao, how have you been? How are things going?
Yeah, they are very busy right now. I'm just sorting out my son's 21st, which is this weekend. And also, I'm going to be studying in a week's time.
Very
And
nice.
I'm going to
Are
be
we allowed
doing
to
a
know?
diploma.
Are we allowed to know what you're studying?
What was that?
Are we allowed to know what you're studying?
Yeah, I'm studying a diploma in emergency management.
Right. Oh, very nice. Very good.
Yeah. Keep me out of trouble. And I'm working part-time.
And you're working part-time. Awesome. Are we allowed to know what you're doing?
For what?
For work. Are we allowed to know what you're doing part-time?
Oh, yeah. No. I'm still working at Runway Baptist. That's where I was during the floods last year. And so I've just been doing a bit of community development, but also, excitingly, going to be starting an emergency response collective. And more to come.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
It's just time. It's time for it.
Well
How
done.
have you been, Elliot? Been a while?
Yeah, good. Hey, yeah, it's been a minute. I've had some job swapping, so I'm at a new job now, which I really enjoy. That's great stuff. We've I was just mentioning that we've had our website get hacked, super hacked, in fact. So that was really interesting, and I think it's interesting too because the timing. I think it's down to one of two articles. So you've got one article, of course, which was the Victoria O'Brien expose, which showed that the gangs are in the ports, that the ports are compromised, and that we're checking less than half of the containers that we are supposed to, and that many of those are empty. Anyway, so something's going seriously wrong.
Wow.
The other one, and this on the same day that we got hacked, again, I don't know if this is related, but it seems very in line, which is that we had the part there which talked about the person leading the charge on the Te Pāti Māori investigation. That push-in is, of course, by Pania Gray. I would bring up the article, but I cannot. And Pania Gray is someone who is very much an activist. She's very strong about the elitist or the academic style of Te Ao Māori and pushing it in and forcing everyone to eat it effectively. So I don't know. I don't know if that was a reason. However, great news. Our people who are in the tech area, they are rebuilding that site. We're going to have it up and running. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and we're going to get into it real soon again. All right. Oi. Liao left, and then she came back. Wow.
You started talking about hacking, and then I pressed the wrong button.
Oh, yeah. See, black bag. Now, so we were just talking about also Pania Gray, who is leading the investigation, or one of the leads of the investigation to Pāti Māori, and the fact that is quite hilarious. That is, I don't understand why she's been chosen. She's an activist. She's very much strongly about John Tamahiri and all of those groupings. I do want to make a mention though. Manurewa Marae has done awesome things for the Manurewa community. They have done great things for the community. Now, turns out I know a couple of the whistleblowers, and their conscience is what got to them. They love the marae, but they felt that what they were being pushed to do during that election was absolutely corrupt, and it struck them at their conscience. So those are very brave people, very brave people. But anyway, what do you think? What do you think about the Te Pāti Māori investigation there, Liao? Or maybe they're not corrupt, maybe it's all good.
I don't know. My dad used to always say the pot calling the kettle black. I don't even know if that's racist anymore. That's really not about that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We've got some very strong activism going on, and that's why we want to make sure that this investigation is going to go the proper way. It's got to be robust. It has to be robust. Otherwise, it's not going to be worth it.
No matter how much investigation you do, the truth always finds its way to the top. No matter how much you try and suppress it, it will come out. It's just that the sooner the better when it comes to truth, because in a few years' time, when it actually mattered, it's not going to be important anymore.
Great point. Very good point. And I think that's actually what this is about. Is it going to be fair that Te Pāti Māori, maybe John Tamahiri, whoever may or may not be guilty of this absolutely corrupt practice, it's got to have teeth in the serving up of justice. Otherwise it's pointless. And then we are a banana republic. But I see we've got some of our other our other brother was in there, and then he's gone somewhere else. That's fine. I'm sure he'll be coming back in, not a problem.
We're having fun. It's been a while.
Now there was something interesting that it did happen, and this happened a few weeks ago. Praise God, and this what this was. That, of course, was the first pictures of a wonderful rescued Israeli hostage from the October 7, the horrific attack by Hamas, that brutal, the rapes and murders and everything that was involved in that. Wonderful to see that, and it was also interesting because very recently, after that rescue, this is what we saw from the career politician who comes from the Greens Party.
And that's really all I have to say, E Te Whānau. I'd just like to close off with some words that they have tried really bloody hard to take out of my mouth and the mouth of many others. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! Kia ora, E Te Whānau.
Yeah, and so of course there was that call, which many of us are aware of the fact that it is a genocidal call seeking to erase Israel, to erase Jews from the river to the sea. Quite a fascinating report. Liao, what's your take on that, the rescue on Chloe Srobick, who we pay thousands of dollars to?
Yeah, wonderful rescue. To be fair, since I think October, November, our prayer group have been praying for the rescue, for those who were kidnapped during that time. And in fact, one of the guys in our prayer group have been praying individually by name. So it was quite a thrill for us to actually see it, because it's been something that they've got continually done. So I'm really pleased about that. So if you think about from the river to the sea, you have a look at how big on the map, how big Palestine is and how little Israel is. Like, you really need to just look at the map, and then you start to think about what you're saying, because this is how little Israel is in comparison to how big that is. That's crazy to me. Anyway, we better bring Fuiawa on.
Very good. Before they disappear again. All right, just renounce the stage. Here we go. Fuiawa. Hey, wā mai?
Oh, malo soifua. Yeah, whātalo whātu pa ia man malu whain whātasi mai le nei afi. Yeah, I'm together with Chief Anai, Afa Anai, and we're here to answer any questions that have to do with the the bill. He's going to give an update. So
Lovely.
we're just listening to your conversation there regarding Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about the first pictures. The first pictures of the Israeli rescuee, that person who just really... Just wonderful there. And also we were discussing Chloe Swarbrick, the taxpayer-funded Greens MP, the one who has been calling out from the river to the sea. She's returned to that, what I would regard as hate speech and incitement. But we were just having a quick chat about that. So, yeah, look, welcome. Welcome, Afa.
Welcome, Arthur.
Hi.
So, hi, you guys.
Exciting times. Exciting times in terms of the movement towards the Samoan citizenship being returned back to the Samoans for that period before Muldoon wiped it out. So, what is the latest? And we the last we heard was that there was a lawyer who was going to speak, there was a dinner, but that's all we heard. We didn't hear about the submissions. We haven't heard about anything going forward, so we'd love a little bit of a catch-up.
Okay. First of all, the submissions were heard last week in Wellington on the 24th and the 26th. That's Monday and Wednesday. And then on Monday, we heard the Auckland part of it. And there's a fourth one coming out supposedly on the 9th of July. So that was to give the opportunity to those who made a submission and wanted to be heard. They haven't been able to cover everybody. It's just been impossible. It's been a massive task for them. They didn't expect to see 26,000 plus submissions made with so many of them who wanted to be heard. So that's the background as to where we are now. To me personally, it was exciting to see how our community has reacted right throughout New Zealand with so many submissions coming through. I think it's probably the biggest select committee that they've seen so many submissions come through to be heard on. But to see the young people picking up and understanding what this was all about. So just to recap on that, in 1982, the Papali'i Ala'ilima case was taken by Dr. George Barton and George Rosenberg directly to the Privy Council in London after not succeeding here in New Zealand with New Zealand courts. They believed they were still right in what they were saying. And of course, when I went to London, the law lords in the Privy Council overnight made a decision that they were right. And the reality was that Samoans born between 1924 and 1949 were in fact British subjects. And then the 1st of January 49, that became New Zealand citizens. And so did their heirs. And so that's where we're sitting right now, and that's what we're arguing for. So what basically we are arguing for about 15,000 people in total.
Oh. Hey, we're having some technical fun there. That's all right. We'll see if we get them back. But that's pretty exciting because that means that the citizenship that was given to them was taken away. All right. Oh, he's back. We're back again. All right. Afa, so just had a technical glitch. That's all right. We were just hearing that you were discussing the idea of their heirs also being allowed to be citizenship, and that's where we got up to.
That's right. So the numbers I said were 15,000 that we're looking at. That's the actual number alive today. They were born between 24 and 49, and their heirs up to Samoa independence in 1962. So the reality is those born after Independence Day are not counted in what we're trying to get an answer on at the moment. So in reality, 15,000 people are a very small number because they'd go backwards in 1982 when the Privy Council decision was out and the Muldoon administration threw it out, didn't accept the Privy Council decision. And so at that time, they were talking about 100,000 Samoans eligible. And today we're down to 15. 1,000 total. So that's the argument we have been putting forward through. Now, I know that there's a lot of discussion going in the committee. I know the National Party is also concerned that they want this resolved one way or another. And they're talking about only acknowledging the elderly born between 24 and 49. Now, my problem with that, the youngest of that lot is 75 years old. That means they've only got about 3 to 5 years before we wipe out that group. And that's the end of it as far as they're concerned. But it's a bigger picture than that. The Privy Council was quite explicit in what it said. 24 to 49 in all the areas. And that's what we should be chasing for. But we've come to realities that we can't push beyond 1962 when Samoa became independent. That would be a difficult battle to win because Samoa becoming independent, it's a nation of its own now. So it's that group that we're fighting for. And hopefully that the national government will say, look, there was a huge error, misjudgment of everything in 1982. The decision taken was wrong. It was racial. It was against human rights. And today they should say, let's fix it. Let's fix it. Let's now give those 15,000 people their rights as per the Privy Council. That's the outcome we're looking for. So we had some fantastic speeches. Sorry.
So just to be clear, the National Party are holding back. The New Zealand First and the ACT Party, I believe, are supporting the return of citizenship. Why is ACT not putting the support in? It seems to be quite clear cut to me.
I'm sorry, you're cracking up and I didn't hear your question.
No, that's okay. That's all right. The Liao, would you be able to say what I was trying to say, just in case it's my mic?
So,
okay, I think what. Sorry, the question was about the support for this
in Parliament.
Well, as you know, on the first reading, the opposition parties, Labour, the Greens, and Te Pāti Māori, all stood in supporting this. And that was strongly backed when ACT and Winston with New Zealand First this to go to a select committee. That gave us a clear indication that there was support there. What we have to do now and during this period of the select committee is make sure
I think they're gone.
Look, we're having tech issues again. We're having tech issues. I think I'm cracking up. I think I'm cracking up all over the place. So we're having tech issues today, people. So Liao, you were talking about you were talking about Chloe and you were talking about the Israel issue. What do you think about the Samoa issue, about the whole citizenship? What are your thoughts on it?
I actually think it's their right. I think it's an honouring of them, because they were wrong. They were wronged, and so they actually need that. I mean, there's only 15,000 people, right, that need to be honoured for what was wronged by them. Oh, he's back. But so I completely support that.
Right. Okay. Great. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, Alpha, we were just you were sort of saying about the political element there. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, I was just saying that we had that political support from the ACT and the New Zealand Party, New Zealand First, to take this to the Select Committee process. And that's where we are right now, right? And the Select Committee has heard a number of people over the last 3 days so far and going on to 4. And they weren't just one session. They were having 2 sessions going each day because of the numbers of people who wanted to be heard. And so what was coming out loud and clear to me, because I've sat in on all of them, I've flown to Wellington twice, was that, first of all, we want the Privy Council decision to be in place now. Return to it and deliver it. Secondly, it was raised about the immigration issues in Samoa, with the New Zealand Immigration Office in the High Commission being only open for 1 hour per day, which is absolutely ridiculous. And how the hell do you serve people like that? And thirdly, to relook at the quota, because while we have 1,650 numbers on the quota, it's impossible to achieve once you've got drawn. So we're asking that if you're drawn on the quota, you should be issued a 12-month working visa that allows you to come to New Zealand and find that job offer and secure your opportunity of staying here. So those are outside the bill, but they are things that need to be talked about because they're extremely important. And from immigration, why can't the Samoans arrive in New Zealand and have their passport stamped with a 3-month visitor's visa, as a lot of other countries in the world get, and they don't have a treaty of friendship? So those are the issues that need to be looked at. So anyway, following the select committee meetings, they are going to have their own discussions amongst themselves, and they will put a
Oh, we're back. We're back out of the tech drama still going on. But so Liao, you were saying you feel like it's a needed thing, it's a correct thing to do. Interesting enough, Winston or ACT Party, New Zealand First are supporting it. National Party are not supporting it. Now, I find that quite fascinating. Actually.
What is the problem? What is the issue?
I wonder if it's actually a little bit of, perhaps it's a little bit of embarrassment. Perhaps it's also over the fact that Muldoon was the one to cut it out. Perhaps no, that's probably not it. They're more than happy to discuss negatives that have occurred in there. So, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure.
It'll be interesting for those who are listening to actually, why do you think National aren't supporting it? It'd be good to know what people think about that. Because it's just strange to me. It's not coming up with anything new, or it's actually just dealing with what's been in the past. And National, Labour, doesn't matter. It's actually what's happened that needs to be corrected. That is all. 15,000 people to all the immigrants that have come over the last few years is.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is actually quite clean. This is not like, for example, the treaty issues that we're seeing currently going on. This was actually very clean. The Samoans were promised in spoken word, something, and it was clearly delineated. There's a clear line. There's a criteria there, and then that was taken away, clearly erroneously. So it seems very clear that it should be fixed.
What he said very clearly was that we were under British law during that time, and we were granted that. So what gave them the right to take that away? What was that for? And why haven't you given it back? It's because it's become independent, so we take it from there, and then you apply. But if we're under British law, there's no reason why it should have been taken away. It's just, it seems crazy to me. I feel like there was a bit of a power struggle there, or a power play, or whatever it is. And they weren't treated the greatest either. So there's a lot of issues that they could, and it's time for them to push back, because we're very compliant people.
No, that's very fair.
People are very compliant, and so this is a big thing for them to stand up and to give submissions. And I think good on them. If they see a wrong that needs to be corrected, then do it. This is just the beginning of strengthening your backbone.
Well, it's quite extraordinary to see that the Samoan, a group of Pacifica actually standing up, actually engaging, actually making their voice heard is quite unusual. So I think that's a really,
that, Elliot,
really
that when
thing.
it actually affects you personally, then you will stand up. When it starts to affect you, like there's a lot of things that haven't affected us in the past, so we just go about our daily lives. But when it affects you personally, you've got no choice, because what were your generation? Anyway, they're back.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think it's wonderful to see so many submissions, to see the Samoan people especially standing up and making their voice heard. I think it's
a proud
wonderful
moment for me, actually.
It would be. Hey, it would be. Hey, well, our technological bandits have returned, so we'll bring them on again. Why am
Just use the sledgehammer, it works.
We were just talking about it, that was all.
Just really good to just see so many submissions. Great to see the passion stand up, and I think it'll be really good we might splice some of the oral submissions and we'll put it on here anyway, because I think there could be some great ones coming up. So July 9th is the next submission element. So that's the first reading, select committee, then I believe it would go to a second reading. Is that correct?
That's correct. After deliberations by the select committee, who need to talk to government officials from immigration, all these issues to discuss this. When that's finished, they will then make a submission back to Parliament for the second reading. And so if the second reading is passed, then you'll find that they could automatically go on to the third reading. And when that's all done, it then goes in for debate in the House, where every party will have their say about whatever's going to come out. My understanding is that once that has been completed and there's an understanding between all parties, it should go back to the Samoan government to approve. Because the protocol that was signed in 1982 gave both governments the right at any time to discuss this issue. And so to follow the protocol through, whatever New Zealand wants to do needs to be approved by Samoa. And hopefully if there are things there that aren't acceptable, we take a tough stand and said, no, we don't accept that. We want this. And that's the way I see it. My concern is I don't want to see us bulldozed again.
That's right.
In 1982, we were bulldozed and sledgehammered through to get what New Zealand want. And a lot of people don't know this, but I'm going to tell you this because I've learned this from my Yava Yulai Toma, who was the secretary to the Samoan government in 1982. And he traveled with Prime Minister Va'ai to Muldoon after he was requested to by Muldoon. And when he appeared, he just said to them that Samoa accepts the Privy Council decision. And Muldoon said, no, New Zealand doesn't. It doesn't accept that. And so they left very disappointed. And then a few days later, Macleay came on behalf of the New Zealand government with a protocol to be signed. These were the problems. First of all, there was no time to liaise with the people affected, the Samoan people. That didn't happen. There was no time for the Samoan government to contact and get some support information from legal experts around the world about a situation like this. So all these things were done in haste and signed, and they went back. And I guess in usual Samoan style, we whalo, etc., we accept these things. But as time passed, we realized we'd really signed our lives away at that point of time.
That's right.
And so it sat there for a long time. I know I was questioned many times. I said, hey, it was a done deal. And I actually blamed Vi saying he sold us out. And I was proved wrong recently when I did more research. And so I entered Parliament in 96, and from there I started looking at this. So I've been on this now for 27 years. In 1998, I had the Dr. George Barton, who was the one who took this to the Privy Council with George Rosenberg, to attend a National Party caucus, because I wanted the National Party to hear exactly what happened and what the legalities were. To be bluntly honest, it went one ear and out the other. There was no interest. And so it sat again until I actually left Parliament in 2002, and then formed the Most Citizenship 2003 group, which we marched on to Parliament on the 10th of March 2003 with a petition of 100,000 names, asking for them to overturn this and give us back the Privy Council decision. Yes, there was issues at the time, but they gave us some time to listen to it, but they couldn't give us what we wanted. They never gave us what we wanted. They talked about a lot of issues. I know one of the issues that we were able to fix at that time when I raised the quota was, how dare you give us a quota where it says, if my name is drawn from the ballot, I've got to find a job in New Zealand without even coming here. How the hell do you do that? But that's what you're expected to do. And you were finding a job that paid you $15 an hour when the minimum wage in New Zealand was $7. Now ask yourself this question, right? You've come from a village, no experience, no nothing. You're expected to find a job in New Zealand without even coming here to eyeball the employer. And you're expecting him to pay you $15 when you've got no experience of any sort, compared to them paying $7 to a New Zealand that's right here. That's how crazy it was. And so after that, they made some adjustments to it. But I still argue today, to fix that right, you've got to allow those people to come on a 12-month working permit to find the job and complete their documentation. Then we will get a complete uptake of the quota, which has never been done in the whole history.
Awesome.
Of it, I think once, right?
Uh,
But coming
so-
back to our question about where are we with the select committee process? Look, I was thrilled to see a number of young people who are now grasping this. You know, for a long time, people heard about it, was wrong, but didn't understand the depth of it. And that's the most important part. They need to understand the depth of it, where the argument is based, and what it can. We were very fortunate this time. We had Lumanbao Catalina Sapolu, barrister, master of laws from London, who came on board immediately when it started and said, I'm here with you guys. We're going to take this one on. She has been able to take the law, check it through all the different legalities it went through way back a couple of 100 years ago. And she was geared up. And when she spoke on Monday, she just blew them away. So much so that they were wanting to talk more to her about this. And that's our real strength at this case. We have someone who knows him. For example, I never knew this, but she said in 1930, the Germans threw the Jews out. Their citizenship was cancelled. They've only recently allowed them back in again with full citizenship. And I believe in 1500, 700 years ago, the Spanish threw out the Jews. And now they've allowed them back in. The heirs to those families, if they can prove it, can become Spanish citizenship. So there's the interesting things that are going on around the world that New Zealand has to seriously look at when they're looking at this. And we've told them time and time again, it is time. It is time to get this right. In reality, what we're looking for is New Zealand should just say, look, the forefathers who made these decisions were wrong. Absolutely wrong. Against all humanitarian efforts, everything. It was black and white that their highest court told them what to do. They rejected it. So they just told us, yes, we accept there was an error, a big error in judgment. But today, we, 42 years later, we want to fix this now. And my answer to that, just give us the Privy Council decision and it's all fixed. That's where it should be.
So why is National holding back? Because I agree, Liao agrees, many of those who we've spoken to agree that it's a very clear removal of a right that was given. It's a very clear one. It's not
Yes.
It's not as simple as the treaty stuff. It's actually very clear. So why do you think that National is holding back?
Okay, when we go back in 82, they're talking about 100,000 people. And they were scared about the economic impact in New Zealand. And they regarded it as probably as no-hopers who were just going to get on the dole and go to prison and all the rubbish they talk about. You know, that's all they ever talk about is a negative. Why don't they just focus on what the positive things that people have given to this country? And that goes for us and Maori. You know, any news about this, it's the negative they bring out. Whether it's 1% or 5%, they forget about the 95% positive. So now we're coming back here 42 years later, and they're still talking about the economic impact. So my answer to this thing here, listen, you guys, 15,000 people is nothing. And we as Samoans who are already in this country have showed you what we can do. We've achieved everything in this country. There's nothing we haven't. And as Samoans and Pacific people, we have put New Zealand at center stage of the world on many things. Sports, opera singers, whatever, we can do it. And so I go back to what I always say. You need to give people an opportunity to prove themselves. That's what needs to happen. And, you know, if they agreed with us right now, in 10 years' time, they're going to say, why did we make an issue of this? And I want to remind them, you know, back to 6 o'clock closing, they were living in caves then. Now what are they saying? They don't say anything about it. It's acceptable, right? Same time, there was no shopping in the weekends because they still lived in caves. So how do they live today? So if you ask those questions of the stupidity of their thinking, of historical thinking, and they change and see the results of change, it's about time. And we're ready for it.
And you're right. But I can't, or maybe it's my own naivety. I can't see them still holding on to racist ideas about it. I mean, there's too much evidence that suggests that the Samoans are good quality immigrants and are important. But why now? Why right now they're really struggling to just support this? But why is Christopher Luxon doing it? Because for me, it's easy to hear they still think that Samoans are lazy, dog bludgers, whatever the negative narrative is. But is that still the case today? Is that what you think?
Let me give you my sarcastic answer to that. They think we just arrived on a banana boat with a lava and jandals, and we should be satisfied to get a piece of bread with butter and jam on. What are you bitching about? That's what you have. You didn't have it before? That's the attitude they take to us, right? That's how I read it. But the real telling was at the first reading, National didn't support the Samoan people who are New Zealand citizens and residents to go to a select committee, which is a process for all New Zealanders to be able to talk to politicians. Now tell me that one. That one only has one answer. It was a pure racial attack.
Yeah.
Pure racial, nothing else. Because we were Samoans, they didn't want to give us the opportunity, or was it they feared us, that we're going to tell them the truth and they don't want to hear it?
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry. I just wanted to know why now? Like, why didn't we do it, like, say, last year when Labour was in, and they are supportive of it now? So why now? Why have we come to this point now?
You asking me? Why don't you go and ask those 10 MPs they had in the House?
Yeah.
Don't ask me.
No, yeah, I'm just, it's just
look, I'm just being sarcastic. I'm sorry. Basically, they were doing other things. I think a lot of people, because I took it
they not want to address it.
They thought this is a done deal, ain't going to happen. Now, I've been sitting waiting for the opportunity, right? And the difference with this time, this was a private member's bill that was drawn and has to be debated. And that opened up the door for us to come back in. And that's why I'm telling you now, if it was not the strength of the most citizen group and all the Samoans throughout New Zealand who've backed what we've said and put in submissions, would have got nowhere.
Yeah.
Now they realize this is an extremely important issue. We've seen the results of it. 25, 26, I actually believe there's more than that, 1,000 submissions. I believe there are submissions that are floating around that hasn't actually reached the select committee section of Parliament. Yeah. But that's my thoughts on it. But even though 25,000 people making a submission to a select committee is a large number in the history of New Zealand select committee process.
Amazing.
I've just been reading Cameron Brewer and Tom Rutherford from National. I've been reading their Hansard, the transcript of what they spoke, their opposition to it, and it's quite extraordinary. But they're not saying anything. They're actually doing the old saying lots of words but meaning absolutely nothing. They're not even. Cameron Brewer even pushed out there with a potential idea that seemingly could be about over 173,000 non-native born New Zealanders coming into the country in 2023.
Can I just
that's about that.
Can I just make a quick comment here? Supposedly we have a treaty of friendship with New Zealand, but there's that phrase that comes to mind with friends like this, who needs enemies? You can't trust these guys to actually hold up their end of the bargain. When they came to Samoa, Samoans didn't ask for them to come, but they came. And when they came, they did a lot. They did a lot of damage. And unfortunately, we're the ones who know about the damage that they did to us. Kiwis here in New Zealand that are born here, they have no understanding. They think that we're just crying for no specific reason. We're just being crybabies. But the truth of the matter is, ever since we've had a relationship of friendship with this country, they have done nothing but terrible things have come out of this relationship.
But you know why? Because the treaty of friendship is written on toilet paper, and that's all it's good for.
This is a former member of New Zealand Parliament here.
I mean it, when you look at it and the way we're being treated, even right now in the New Zealand office in Samoa, with the immigration office being open for 1 hour a day to process visas.
That's right.
And people can't even come to funerals in New Zealand because of this. I may be Saki, but I'm absolutely right. And maybe it's the only language they will understand, my language.
Can I ask you why you think it's only open for 1 hour? Like, does that even make sense to you if there is such a huge...
It doesn't make sense to me at all. It just makes me angry, and you probably feel that coming through. But the fact is, they have, throughout the world with many countries, where people can arrive in this country and have their passport stamped at the entry into New Zealand with a visa for 3 months as a visitor. Why we, with a treaty of friendship, aren't treated this way? Why? Those are deep questions. Now, can you tell this much? I don't think they'll even have answers for us. Now, going back to Cameron, my reading of those poor 3 guys who were first termers in the Parliament, they would put them there to take the hit. And the fact is, Cameron actually worked for me when I was in Parliament. And so I know Cameron well. The reading I had of those 3 guys, I actually felt sorry for them, because if you read the body language and what they were doing, they did not want to do what they were doing. And I don't think they even believed in what they were saying. But that's being kind to them, because that's the way I read it. But they were there to deliver the message. And now they're the ones who are taking it on the chin, because the so-called experienced people, they hid behind these guys. That's the bottom line. Yep. And they'll say that's rubbish because they were put on that select committee, and that's what happens. So.
No, you're absolutely right. This is just one of the parts of Cameron's speech of what he conducted. And I'm going to say this just really fast. And successive governments have, unfortunately, other side of the House, unfortunately, the argument not proceeded on a number of firm grounds. We as a government understand and continue to foster yada, blah, 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 blah. There are so many words in this, but it's not saying anything. I absolutely agree with you, Afa. I think that they've been sent ahead to take the hit, because when you look at the other National Party members' speech, it's actually quite the same. Yeah. It really is. I'm just trying to see if I can find it now. There we go. Tom Rutherford. Again, he says a whole bunch of nothing. Many, many words and nothing there. So it does seem as if they're... I wonder if they're seeking to see if there's going to be a kickback from the people of New Zealand. And I think if they get enough success, as it seems to be on the submissions, it is, perhaps it's going to encourage them to do what I think also is the right thing. I mean, it's really interesting that the two parties who support National, ACT and New Zealand First, that those two are supporting this bill heavily. And again, we'll see what happens after the submission process anyway.
But going back on that, now, in 2003, the number of Palangis in this country who said to me, Arthur, what is this all about? We always thought you were New Zealanders. That was the attitude then, right? Now, I don't like to use the word racism, because I can tell you this much. I say 95% of our people in this country are no longer that. They have taken us and accepted us and are very proud of what we do. But unfortunately, they vote people who act on their behalf.
That's right.
And that's why when we use the word racism, it is too hard to use and unfair on the masses. But unfortunately, when you dilute what they're saying, there's no other word. There is no other word, because that's what it is in black and white terms in the eyes of everybody. And I just hope and pray that at the end of this, they just say, we made a huge mistake. Yeah. Let's fix it now. Let's walk this path together. Enough wrong has been done to the Samoan people under New Zealand administration historically. And let's recap. The flu. That's right. Quarter of the population, mass buried. Was that they saw the video? Didn't look good. The killing of Tamasesi. The imprisonment and being sent overseas, never to come back, of Samoan leaders at the time. The mistake was Samoan leadership does not stop when one is sent offshore. The next one steps in line and he could be worse than the first one. And so that's what happened, right? And they shot him. And his last words were, don't avenge this. And we have lived that, right? We have lived that. And then we come to the 50s and we were allowed to come in because industry in Auckland and other places was growing. They didn't have enough people to man those factories. And they looked at the Pacific to come in and do that. And we came. And sure, we came in on documentation. They didn't even bother checking it's time to go home or you've got to extend your visa. No, it's because we need them. And then in the 70s, what happens? Oh, we don't need these guys anymore. Boom, out, dawn raids. You know, bashing the door down in the middle of the night, coming in with their dogs, pulling the sheets of people and throwing them into paddy wagons and flying them out the next day, not even knowing who they really are. And then we look at the real figures. Less than a third was Pacific people. 2/3 were Palangi people from all over the world, you know, Europeans. But they're not hard. You can't spot them in a group, can you? But we've got a tattoo that says we're Polynesian.
Body tattoo.
You know, and that's exactly what happened. That wasn't racist, that was. And, you know, and the Dawn Raid legacy today, they've been pumping this hard. You know, my sister's involved with it. I can tell you this much. She was in Wellington this week. They had 1,000 kids today. 1,000 kids from school who wanted to hear every word. And she said, the teacher said, this is unbelievable. Normally kids make a lot of noise. There wasn't a sound. They listened to everything and find it unbelievable that we were treated this way. So that's what happened then, you know. So that was the Dawn Raids. And then we come into the Privy Council decision, same thing. But, you know, our problem is a great problem because we are governed by whālualu, respect, humility, dignity. That's what governs the lives of the Samoan people. And I'm very proud of that. But I can tell you in the eyes of Palangis, they see us as being weak because that way. One day, they will have to wake up because we're not the ones who go out and make a lot of noise. You don't see us marching the streets making a lot of rowdy noises. We march the streets singing, laughing, and dancing.
That's right.
That's what we do. You know? And when we went to Parliament in 2003, we flooded the grounds of Parliament singing and dancing and laughing and praying. That's our style. But don't take that as a weakness from us. That is a very big mistake.
Beautiful. Well said. So we'll be watching what goes on. We'll be quite eagerly accepting of that. Look, we're about to actually do our last little post discussion. But actually, as an ex-politician, I'd love to get your viewpoint on this. So we've had the Joe Biden, Donald Trump, the debate that's occurred. This has actually come out now. Okay, it's come out from the Donald Trump camp. It has come out from them, so it's obviously biased. But in this, Donald Trump doesn't say one word, I believe. Oh, no, I think he says about 3 or 4 words. So have a check out this, and then we'll have a little bit of a reaction to it from us all here.
Both, however, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna. I'm proposing that everybody the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I've not raised the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
So that was now. I thought I'd be laughing my head off when I saw that they were going to do a ad on Trump on the Biden debate, but instead I felt really uncomfortable in watching that. And Biden, I think, was always going to have trouble. Anyway, the Democrat camp is in meltdown, but he has been already observed. He is not going to step down. He's going to keep on going. I'd love to take your take on it, Afa, as to what your thoughts are in terms of the US election, the Trump, the Biden, that element going on. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings about that situation?
I mean, that was a classic example of going for an interview like that without being prepared with notes. You know, you got to accept the fact that as you get older, you start to forget things in bits and pieces. And you got to cover your tracks. And look, when you see any of them delivering speeches normally, you see a glass thing in the sides. I don't know if you've ever seen that or picked it up. But that's the reflection of the speech coming up through there, and they switch from one to the other and deliver a speech in total facts. He was stumbling to try and get his facts. And he had them, but he was lost with his. That's hate. Just imagine the nervous tension you get built up on a situation like that. You may be an experienced politicians, but you know, you're trying to get things right. So that's what I'll say for what he was doing. This is what I've always read with what's happening on this Trump thing before. I was quite surprised the number of my family across America supporting him. And so this is the black and white that I read. Trump said, we need to increase wages and we need to get jobs for the people, right? And he went ahead and did that. And so by doing that, the working class think he's God. They've saved him. Because the stupid thing that happened in America, they started to offload everything to be made offshore in China and buy it back. And the end result of that is no jobs. And this is what happens with unionism that people still don't understand. It's like here in New Zealand, they push and push and push for the wages to go up. And that's great, except if the wage goes up here, the cost of this product's going up here as well. So who wins in the end? Nobody. And when you force a company to go under, do you know who the real loser is? The worker. He loses everything. The company can fold, take its money, whatever is left back, and live. You know, and I used to always say things, I get very angry when I see our people on the streets, blah, 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 like this. Where's their union delegate? He's sitting in his office like me, like this, drinking coffee. Look at my workers out doing my dirty work for me. One day we'll realize that that's what happens. Right? So again, I'm being sucky here, but the facts are that. So Trump is not a diplomat. If he wins, they've got to find somebody out to do the diplomacy stuff around the world because he's a warmonger the way he talks. And that's because he's confident within himself financially. And when you don't give a damn about anybody, just do it, right? But on the plus side, he's getting America started with manufacturing again. He's getting jobs back in it, you know, all these issues. There's one classic case I heard in Detroit, which was always stuck in my mind. It was a hot water manufacturing company, cylinders. They went out of business because the unions forced them out of business with too many demands. They closed up. Then we started to import hot water cylinders from China. And there was no jobs for these people. And if you know anything about Detroit, she's a dead city. She's ghost at the moment, right? That's what's happened. And that was a thriving place where business and industry all worked out there. And so what he wants that is to bring all that back again. And look, if I was working class, I'd be back in that as well. I want a job. I want a good pay that allows me to buy a house and live a fair life. But at the same time, I've got to say to myself, if I don't support these guys to give me a job, I'll have nothing. So don't get this envy thing. They've got the money, I've got nothing, I'm going to drain it. Because that's sad to say is what's happening in this country now. They want everything, but they want to give nothing to get everything. The company does not survive if not everybody's going to pull their weight.
That's right.
And the productivity of this country is dropping. We used to have a reputation internationally. Grab New Zealanders, they're good workers. I tell you what, we've lost that. We have lost that badly overseas as well. So these are issues that you've got to think big around. Don't just think of me, think of us. Because that's what has to happen. And for this country now, for us to pull ourselves of the rut we're in financially, economically, we've all got to pitch together. We've got to make it all work. And that means some pain. And the reality is there is no gain without pain. End of story.
Well said. Well said. Fuiawe, what are your thoughts?
Basically, I have to agree with everything he said. The thing that you're asking about has to do with the debate. Is that what you're wanting to?
Well, the debate, the campaign itself, how you see it going later on this year.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the Supreme Court of the United States just put out a.
Well, they said that if a president conducts certain orders within the process of his presidency, then it's okay. Therefore, January the 6th, he is exempt from that.
Exactly.
That's what effectively, that's
presidential immunity.
Can I run for president?
So that's what they were saying about presidential immunity. And then the next thing you know, the leftists, they started actually calling for the assassination of President Trump.
Yeah,
believe it or not.
Not explicitly, but they have been suggesting that indirectly.
So I mean, the thing is I think everyone and their mama knows who the next president of the United States is going to be, and I think the all that you saw right there with Joe Biden in that what you call debate, that's nothing new. Everyone's known that. The only people that have refused and have gaslit everyone else are the Democrats, and the media who are in the pocket of the Democrats. And the thing that I'm trying to say basically is that if that's what happened, then you know that they're preparing to try to get rid of this guy. But what they didn't expect was for the family to stand up. They didn't expect that Jill Biden would be actually pushing for her husband to continue on. So
she's going hardcore.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
But you're right. Well, they had that meeting at Camp David, and all of his aides said, no, you've got to run. And besides which, who would you swap him with? AOC? Kamala Harris? There's no one there who looks like they could even do anything.
They got problems all over the world.
All over the world.
They've got extreme rights in Europe. Gone extreme right? UK's in trouble. They're all in trouble. And the reality is, with this new stuff that's coming through, we are all in trouble worldwide. We have to be prepared to adjust with whatever. It's like I say about climate change. They make an issue about climate change
as being the biggest threat.
But to me, climate is nature at work.
Absolutely.
And if you watch the animals or the plants, they adjust to nature. And it's about time the human being woke up and said, look, this is a reality of life. It's happened for thousands of years. If you don't adjust, you lose. And that's why there's some people disappeared from places in the past. That's life.
It's life.
It changed climate change from seasons. We used to have seasons, remember? Remember that time? Winter, autumn, summer. I just want to say something about Biden. I think that everybody has missed is that it is elder abuse. He should not be standing. He is not in his right mind, and everyone knows it. The problem is that he actually, for his own dignity's sake, needs to step down, regardless of what his wife thinks. He is not in his right mind, and it is elder abuse, and nobody's talking about that. And it actually is, it's very uncomfortable to watch, and I actually feel really bad for him. No matter what he's trying to say, it's not coherent. Everybody knows it. Why is he still standing there speaking on behalf of the people when he doesn't even complete the sentence? So, that's just for me. And I guess what we're waiting for is Trump's right-hand person, which I'm hoping is our Samoan girl.
Oh, I knew you were going to hope it was. I knew you'd want it to be Tulsi.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, that should be a good one. Should be solid.
Should be amazing.
Her
It'd be
father, her
solid.
father's Samoan. Her mother's
Yeah,
Samoan.
I think that'll be. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's something dark is going on over there. That's
Yeah.
just, it's not healthy at all. And it's funny. The age matters nothing. No one cares about the
No,
age.
not
It's
about that.
it's the decline element that's the big problem. I think Trump is 3 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
Then only 3 years, and yet he is still full of vitality, life. And as I say, he's got this.
He's built
He's
different.
broad and he's out there. He's bigger than life. He's very self-confident. Some would say arrogant.
Yeah, you can.
But the American spirit sometimes, I think, needs it. Like a chef, you need to have your chef a little bit arrogant, I think. So that's my thoughts
But
anyway.
the thing is, things can change over 3 years. That 3 or 4 year gap is a big gap at that age. That be honest about that's what happened.
Yeah.
We could look back in time and say, how's Trump going to perform when he's 82? And these we're all getting older, and at that stage you've got a huge amount of experience behind you, right? But if you look at the job of presidency in America now, they're putting fires out everywhere. They are.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And people mix up which country they're talking about, or what's going on, which fire they're trying to put out. And then that's on the international scene. And then you've got all this going on the domestic scene. At the domestic scene, you're trying to win the support from people around you. At the same time, you hope your actions internationally are being supported by these same people, or do they see it as a waste of money? One thing that has happened in the world today, in my view of the warfare, people's lives aren't being wasted anymore as support. They're sending the weapons and the money to do that job. And to me, that's fantastic. So many lives have been lost historically by getting in there to save people and losing your own people's lives. That is not easy to forget or forgive, to be honest. Because some people say, why did we go in the first place? What was our business to be there? Do people understand why? All those questions.
Yeah, I think one thing that Trump has actually got in his favor is the fact that people tend to forget that he's an international businessman. That Trump brand is an international brand, and he's been used to working with all of these leaders of different governments around the world at that top level, where things that take place actually affect his business, and at the same time, his business affects the welfare of the people in that particular country. So he's very familiar with many of these people who are in positions of leadership around the world, and I think that's really what makes him a bit different from Joe Biden, in the sense that he's a businessman. This guy right here, he's a businessman. He knows how to run a business. He ran a business before he went into Parliament.
International businessman too.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is the deal. It's like they're familiar with getting a group of people together in order to help run their business and to make decisions that'll affect how their business is run. And that's the thing that I just want to say. In a sense, the government is kind of like that as well.
Well, from a government perspective, there are two elements. First of all, the economics. But then with all the economics, you've got to drive the social.
Yeah.
There's not one that stands alone. They both go together, and you need one to drive the other. And unfortunately, too many in the social side sometimes don't want to hear the economics.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't care. They just want themselves.
That's right.
And then you get the economics people, I want to survive. So I'm not paying you all that money, or I'm not giving you those jobs, because if you take that, I can't survive. I mean, it's been simplistic, but that's the reality of what it is.
Yep, no, you're right. So definitely something to have a look at, and really important things to look at. We will be on top of it. We're going to bring up discussions. We're going to go into it. Alpha, thank you so much for joining us. We absolutely appreciate the update. We can't wait to hear more what's going on.
Yes.
We're going to also finish the way that we must. Liao, would you please finish us off with a little bit of Lotu, and then we can finish up there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lord, for just this time we've been able to stop and reflect and also discuss the things that are important. And Lord, just as the Samoan people who have come always so humbly before you about this, Lord, we pray that you'd place in our hearts justice, because justice is the foundation. Justice and righteousness are the foundations of your throne. And so we ask for justice to flow like a river over our land, Lord, that they would be able to have these wrongs corrected. And that, Lord, we pray that the national government will look at the bigger picture and just not what they see right now. We thank you for Arthur and his 27-year fight for this, and we just pray for your blessing and favor over him as he continues to fight for what is right for our people. Thank you for this time that we can spend to discuss, and we pray that you'll bring us back safely next time. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So let's hope that in a few months we can all walk around like this, or like this.
In our trucks with our flags. We drive around New Zealand.
Yeah, my car's got flags all over. People look at me.
It's going to be a sea of blue. A sea of blue. All right.
Who owns this car?
All right. See you
Thank you very
guys.
much.
See
It's been a
everyone.
You too.
All right. Pass it forward.
Pass it forward.